Good afternoon, TechNation editor John Wallace here. So who's ready to earn 1 CE credit from the ACI today? We have a Tools of the Trade live demo featuring BC Group's myBC Connect and myBC mobile app. This session will introduce you to myBC Connect and the myBC mobile app. These tools are designed to optimize field service efficiency. You'll learn how to eliminate manual documentation, automate test data capture, and access service history from any device. Please note that there are two handouts in the control panel that are available for download. BC Group Director of Business Development, Justin Barbour, will demonstrate how automated tests guide the technician through a test while reducing error rates and saving time. He will show how to modernize service delivery, improve traceability, and maximize technician output using BC Group's platform and how it is setting a new standard for connected biomedical service. Before we get started, it's trivia time. We're going to give away a multi-tool today. So please use the questions feature to send in your answer. The trivia question is, July is National Blueberry Month. Which state is the largest producer of blueberries? We did a good job of wearing blue shirts for that question today. I want to remind everyone that today's presentation is eligible for 1 CE credit from the ACI. 1 hour after the end of today's broadcast, you will receive an emailed survey. Completing that survey will grant access to a certificate that you can download and print from your desktop. We will wrap up today's broadcast with a Q&A session. Please note that the webinar dashboard includes a questions feature, and you can submit your questions for Justin at any time during the demo. Justin, you may begin whenever you are ready.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, welcome. So my name is Justin Barbour. I am a Director of Business Development for BC Group, and I have the pleasure of figuring out how best Biomeds use test equipment and software, which is why this is fantastic, because I see nothing but opportunity when I first heard about myBC Connect. So now is kind of a special day because I finally get to tell you guys about this software. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let's click on over so you guys can see what it looks like. So myBC Connect is just one piece of the BC Group ecosystem. There are multiple components. So you have the automated test equipment, then you have myBC mobile app, which is completely free. And then the third component is going to be myBC Connect, which expands on those capabilities and gives you guys the ability to do all sorts of cool stuff, all right, including save time. So first thing that we should go over is that there's different levels of myBC Connect. All right, so this is the basic level where you can log in and you can update the firmware on your BC Group test equipment. Then there's the Plus edition, and the Plus allows you to do automated test sequences, allows you to store your data on our servers, and thirdly, it allows you to generate reports for your customers, and you can also give the customers the ability to see their own test results. And we'll go over that in a little bit. And then we have the Pro version. The Pro version are for the most integrated, and that means that it's going to interface with your CMMS system, and it will automatically close your work orders, import the data, etc. And that is our Pro license. So guys, you're going to see a little bit more than probably what you're normally going to see because I have access to everything, But let's go ahead and let's log in and let's show you around the insides of myBC Connect. So I'll give you guys an overview of the internet service, and then we will take a look at myBC Mobile because we've got a lot of updates on myBC Mobile, some really cool stuff. And then I'll give you a quick demo at the very end showing you how they all kind of interface and how we can save you guys some time, right? So myBC Connect, the cool thing about it is obviously the auto sequences. So we can go in and we can create auto sequences, but there is something that we do that hasn't really been done before, and that is we have this online marketplace. As long as you're a myBC Connect subscriber, you have access to this marketplace for free, where you can go in and you can search and you can download other people's test sequences. So if there's a model that you guys have never heard of before, or maybe you're a Biomed 1 that's someplace remote and you don't have any other support, you can go in and you can find a equivalent, if not the exact model that you want to do test sequences on. and you can run it. So the way that works is you're going to copy somebody else's test sequence to your library, and then you relabel it. And of course, you verify that the test sequence is accurate. Very important, guys. And then you can run it at your leisure, and you can distribute it also to your technicians if you're a senior level user. So these are some of the test sequences that we currently have. We have pages and pages of them, guys, and some of them are test sequences, just sequences to prove that these capabilities happen and that certain functionality works. So you are going to see a lot less than I'm currently viewing on here. But one of the things that you should notice is that on the sidebar here, some of them will be labeled as public, and you can choose to make your test sequences that you spent your hard work on. You can distribute those publicly across the world. And we do have subscribers all around the world. Some of these are in countries that have little to no documentation on how to handle a biomed equipment program. So this is kind of an experience for you as well, where you can contribute to the worldwide healthcare, right? So this is the auto sequences menu. Let's show you some of the test records. So we color coded our test records, and these are going to be on our server. The reds are going to be failed. We have yellows, which are incomplete, and then we have green. That means that it has passed. And the cool thing about the incompletes, you'll see in a moment, because I'm sure as soon as I run one of these tests, it's going to say, would you like to resume where you left off? And that's where this ecosystem really kind of is pretty cool. It's kind of like Netflix when you talk about testing, because I don't know about you guys, but there's many times where I'll be testing medical equipment and I will get the call and I have to respond to an emergency someplace and I completely forget where I left off. That's where this is really neat. I can come back in, I can scan that barcode. It says, would you like to resume where you left off, or would you like to start from scratch, from brand new? And it's up to you. You can, if you choose to resume, it will configure all your test equipment exactly how you left it, and you will start testing exactly where you left off, which is pretty neat. I really wish I had that functionality 10 years ago when I was like busting around those OR rooms and I would constantly get called out. So it's a neat thing. So you see these tests right here that say that they're incomplete. That's what they are. They're probably something that was used for a demo, but if I scan that asset ID 12343, it will say, would you like to continue? And you'll probably see that in just a moment. So that's the test records. We can also, by the way, create a report of multiple test records by clicking on the PDF, and it will save it locally. From there, we can attach it to your current work order, or we can also email it to your customer right there on the spot. And the cool thing is you can do this before you even leave the customer's account. So if you are one of these FSEs, one of these guys that's out there and you're at a customer account, there's nothing worse than at the end of the day, you've got a pad of paper. I'm guilty of this myself. You write down a lot of your results or certain notations, and then at the end of the day, hopefully you didn't lose your pad of paper, it didn't get ruined. You spend the last couple hours of your day sending reports to customers and whatnot and trying to remember all the details. I'm guilty of that myself. That's why this is kind of cool, all right? So let's go back to it. We have auto sequences, test records, assets. So the way that our system works is when you become one of our customers, we will ask that you send us a CSV file or an export of all your assets, and then we will import it and we will create your asset library. And once you have these assets attached in there, you can log in and then you can assign a sequence, which you can see these ones here don't have sequences attached to them yet. Here you can see stretchers and cribs, it's got a sequence attached to it. Now, you're probably wondering, stretchers and cribs, that is not an automated sequence. In other words, what are you going to do with an automated test equipment to make that happen? Well, our auto sequences are pretty unique because you can use anybody's test equipment, any brand, any manufacturer, any type, and you can make any type of test. So it's basically a platform for you to create an automated or regulated test library. So stretchers and cribs, you could take photos of the plastic cams that are cracking and breaking. You take photos of casters to make sure that the drive is engaged. You can even take photos of, let's say, a cracked or defective mattress, and you can attach them. That way there, your biomed that is following in your footsteps, who's going to be carrying out these tests, they know exactly what to look for and then we can create checklists and stuff like that. Pretty neat stuff, guys. You got test codes to get into biomed mode or something. You can incorporate that as part of the test, so you no longer spend time sitting there on site. Biomeds on site, that's the most expensive time you can have as a company. So by incorporating that stuff and focusing your biomeds attention on the work at hand, they're going to be way more effective. So this is some of the asset library. We have a whole bunch of them. Obviously, I have access to a lot more stuff than you would. You as a company, you would only see your assets and your auto sequences. You guys have any medi testers out there? I know I do. I got one right over here. If you have medi testers, which many of you still do, you can still extract that data right here. They're still relevant. You can still pull that data. And it's one of those cool additions. It's because there are many government entities and stuff that still use medi testers. We've incorporated it as one of the automatic features. CMMS management, that menu there is if you are a pro user, which you can see up here. I've got the pro logo. This affects how myBC Connect interfaces with your CMMS system. And it's going to be your login data. It's a bunch of stuff that you guys probably won't have to know. But if you see a CMMS management tab right there, that is because I'm a pro user, and that means that I have it interfacing with one of the CMMSs that we're currently compatible with. Now, I'm going to let this out there to you guys. We currently are compatible with a couple different systems, and we are adding to that constantly. We have a whole team of development technicians, and they're constantly working on software integration with some of the latest and greatest CMMS systems out there. So stay tuned for that. And as our customers sign up, we are going to assign priority levels to different CMMS systems. Nuvolo is one of them that we are currently working on. And if you can't imagine, Nuvolo is a very big system and it's very customizable. So we have to make sure that all that works perfectly. AIMS, we are currently functioning with, no problem. And there's a couple others that we're working with to be announced later as soon as we've proven that everything works good. So back to this, firmware
Justin?
and software. Yeah, please go ahead.
I had a question come in. Does BC Group have and load OEM PM checklist by make and model in the auto sequence?
Very good question. Okay, so first off, BC Group, we do have some sequences on there, but just remember, guys, auto sequences are going to be the responsibility of the customer, because obviously you're assuming responsibility for the contents of the test. All right, and that is how it is with everybody's system, right? That's the way it is. You're assuming responsibility for the test, and you can choose to download one. However, you're going to be building a lot of these out yourselves. Now, do we automatically import stuff? No, but with modern day technology, we have some really cool stuff that it's just in a matter of the last couple months come available. So if you guys didn't know, you can take things like a service manual, which I have a very big one right back here behind me that I'm experimenting with right now. You can import that service manual into a system like ChatGPT, and you can tell it to generate a service checklist, which so far, according to our tests, has been very accurate. Of course, you know, it's one of those things where you have to verify what ChatGPT is doing, because, you know, it's just a computer. But it has been very accurate, and it cuts down the amount of work for you, the administrator. If you just have it create a checklist of items, you verify that that checklist is accurate, then you can copy and paste it very quickly into your own custom auto sequence. Very easy to do. And the most difficult part is to go in and incorporate photos, because I am all about over documenting a process. In fact, why don't we go ahead and take a moment. Let's go in and talk about exactly what I'm trying to explain here. Let's do a defibrillator demo, and let's see what we're talking about. So this is a auto sequence. We have the ability to go through a variety of different test equipment devices. So right here, we got defibrillator analyzers, we got safety analyzers, non-invasive blood pressure, invasive blood pressure, and flow analyzers. There's a couple of flow analyzers that we're currently accurate with. And we are currently also working on ESUs. That is going to be such a huge improvement, guys. Could you imagine automated testing with ESUs? where it shows you a photo of how to set up a jig, and then it automatically captures that data. We currently have it, it's working, but we're building it out in the system very, very soon, guys. That's gonna be one of the coolest things ever. But when you create your own auto sequence, you can come in here and you can add notations to the user. Like over here, I did a walk-up checklist, and this is for a defib. So for my walk-up checklist, I put a note right here. It says, notify nursing staff you're doing testing on the defibrillator. Why did I add that? Because if you guys are like me, then you have probably made this mistake before where you go down a hallway and you start testing defibrillators, especially in an ICU like I did, and your nurses come running when they hear the defibrillator charging up because they think somebody's coding. I've made that mistake, and I don't want other people to make that mistake. So you can put a notation like that up here, which prevents other people from making that mistake, all right? Pretty easy. And then we have a checklist down here, which I can incorporate images. So general checklist for a walk-up of a defibrillator, check and verify pads are not expired, check the ECG pad expiration, check the battery status and verify the battery was changed in the last 3 years, check to ensure the internal coin battery was changed in the last 5 years. So by the way, this is for a LifePack 20. And inspect the power cable, check accessory cables, you know, generic things that you should automatically do when you walk up to a defibrillator. If any one of these is wrong, you should automatically stop the test, and there's no sense in continuing until it's remedied. So that's why I have a walk-up checklist, and I also have a walk-away checklist, which means you do things like, is the defibrillator plugged into a red emergency outlet, right? Are the cables stowed correctly? Are the paddles attached to the top of the defibrillator? Stuff like that. And you can incorporate a photo of how you want it to look when they walk away from the device. I want the cables stowed in a very particular location. I want the PM tag put right here in the front corner of the defibrillator. You can incorporate all that so the technician doing the work knows exactly what your expectations are. Pretty cool stuff. So I have the ability to attach an image here, and I can also add more steps here. And then I have regular electrical safety stuff, guys. So mains voltage check, device current, and when I run this test, which I have an example over here, the electrical safety meter, because I currently have it set up for the SA2600, which you can see right up here, it can automatically start doing this stuff without requiring any sort of interaction from the technician. So as long as they hook it up according to the image, you proceed with the test. And then when you have to incorporate another jig or whatnot, you incorporate an image of that and another step so they know, okay, now configure the cables like this. I'll show you in just a moment. So right here, ECG simulation. It's another step. I show with a Microsoft Paint, I show them exactly where I want the cable plugged in. And I should have another image showing how the ECG cables are connected to the top of the defibrillator analyzer. That way there, they know exactly how I want it set up. But this is just one step. You can see I label it as 80 BPM, and I give them instructions of what I want them to do. So connect it to the analyzer, verify the BPM on the display, and record it. So this is one of those steps where they're going to be typing in some results because BPM is not something any analyzer can detect. So they have to visually go over to the device under test, match up, make sure that it has a certain BPM, type in what they read, what they verified, and it will give them a pass or fail. So down here, you can see where I set the pass or fail values. So 80 BPM, I have a target of 80. I set the upper limit, the lower limit, and over here, as long as it's between 78 and 82 BPM, they'll get a pass condition. And down at the bottom, this is one thing that even I forgot when I started making these tests. You have to set certain things like what you want the test equipment to do. So here, I set it up. I have the normal sinus rhythm, and I set it for 80 BPM because I figure that's slow enough that it's easy for them to see any defects in the waveform. And I could actually go into some arrhythmias and stuff if I so choose. So normal sinus rhythm. And then I choose a amplitude, a nice big one, 1.5 millivolts. So there you have it. And then all you got to do is back out and your stuff is saved. it's almost like using Google Forms, any of that. If you back out, your stuff is automatically saved. And that makes it very nice. In case there's any sort of software glitches, it's live, it's saved on our servers. SPO2 simulation, you can see I incorporated an image right here showing them how I want the SPO2 probe connected to the FSX 1101. People always put the sensor on the wrong way. Again, this is about making testing medical devices as simple as possible. And I do over document things. So not only do I give them reading instructions, I give them a photo of what I expect. And then, of course, this is another one of those things where they're going to have to type in what they expect the results. So you can see my SPO2, I'm expecting 99%. As long as it's between 97 and 100, I'm happy. And then down here, I have a second test that I set up for 70%. So that gives you the upper and lower range of most SPO2. And as long as it falls between 68 and 72, again, they'll have a pass condition. Cool stuff. Very easy to set up. Now let's check out one of the more complex tests that Biomeds do, all right? And I'm really curious, if you guys have any questions, by the way, if I'm going too fast, go ahead down in the chat and type something in and I will answer it live right here. Let's do it. Let's do it right now. So
one question that came in, is there a maximum number of devices?
Maximum number of devices. You mean devices as in assets to your asset library? Or
I believe that's what they mean.
Okay. No, there is no maximum. Like our database could handle tens of thousands of devices. So that obviously what's going to matter most to you and your company is how many licenses you have set up. If you look up here in the corner, I have 1 of 50 licenses. So you can see I'm the only user that's currently logged in. My company currently has 50 licenses, and I can see exactly how many people are logged in at this moment. And I've never felt so alone in my life. Look at it, it's just me. However, you can do a mouse over and you can see that I'm currently logged in on a computer and on a tablet. So I'm logged in with myBC Mobile right here. I'm also logged in up here giving this demo. So there is no maximum, and just like there's no maximum amount of users. Now, users and licenses are two different things. I want people to know that. It's a very common question. So licenses is how many people could be logged in at one time. And the number of users is any quantity you want. So if you have 10 technicians, I would highly recommend that you get at least 6 licenses, because other words, that means 4 people will not be logged in. And if you have a really hard charging team, like your guys are out there pounding cement, they're doing a lot of work, I would recommend 8 out of 10 licenses. And when you come in here and you look at this number up here, you can see exactly how many licenses you have and how many people are logged in. And if you are starting to max that out, of course, you should increase the quantity of licenses you have. That's just an economical way of doing business. So I would say over half. So if you have 4 technicians, you should have 2 to 3 licenses, right? That way there, you have 25% of your staff is not logged in at one time. But at the same time, you want your guys to be as efficient as possible. You want as many technicians as possible logged in. So that's something to consider. And we work with customers on a one-on-one basis for how many technicians they have, how many facilities they have. You can also have multiple facilities for your company. There's many companies that have already reached out to us where they have 10 to 100 different facilities under their area of responsibility. And yes, you can set each and every one of those facilities up with its own inventory. Cool stuff. So over here, we're on cardiac sync. Now this cardiac sync is one of those things that technicians, they always mess up because they don't even know the standard for what they're supposed to be working with. With cardiac sync, it's supposed to receive a discharge within 60 milliseconds of the R wave pulse. And because of that, most people don't know that, and they're just getting a timing, they're recording it down. They don't even know if it's a pass or fail. By automating that, we give them instructions on what to do, and we automatically set up the test equipment for a normal sinus rhythm. I do it at 60 BPM, so it's nice and slow, so you can actually see what's going on, and a nice amplitude, so it's a nice big waveform, so you can see what's going on. And then I give them instructions. It's very detailed because people also mess up cardiac sync because they always hit the discharge button and then they pull their finger off. Well, you guys that have tested enough defibs, you know that it only works by pressing and holding the discharge button until it receives that next synced pulse, and then it discharges. And I give them that specific instruction up here. It says after the ECG waveform appears, press the sync button and verify each R peak of the QRS is marked. Then set the defib at 200 joules, which you can see I showed down here very clearly what buttons they have to press. And I said press and hold the lightning discharge button. Now, when you do this, the test equipment will automatically give you a pass or fail for everything on this test, for the pulse energy and for the timing. It's going to gather that. You don't have to go into separate menus or anything. It will automatically know what menu you have to be on, and it will capture that data as soon as it receives the discharge, and it gives you a pass or fail. Pretty cool. Makes this test go so much faster. And then I'm just going to demo a couple other outputs that we show down here. I've got 360 joule defib discharge. Now I do label it. When I put a label up here, it automatically renames the test over here. And if you have 10 different discharges or whatnot, then you would have 10 different steps. So if I want 300 joules, I can copy it. And let's change this one to 300. Now I'm going to tell it that I'm looking for 300, and down here, 300. Too easy. And when I click, notice these values automatically changed, and I just added a whole nother step to my system. Now it automatically configures my test equipment for high range, and in this case, we're just looking for regular defib discharges, so I don't have any ECG waveform coming out. Good stuff. I don't have an uploaded step image. I probably will add this in the future, showing them maybe one with paddles and then one with the disposable pads. I mean, obviously, you're going to be testing both, but you've seen how easy it is to come in here and edit a test and add a whole nother step.
Justin, I had another question come in.
Let's do it.
They're asking, can you take a picture as evidence?
Good one. So, taking a picture as evidence. Stay tuned, guys. I pushed out a whole bunch of updates to myBC mobile app. I'm going to show you guys that in just a second. And that was one of the things that we are still working on because of working with the CMMS system and stuff and attaching photos. It led to a little bit of a road bump, but that is something that we're definitely going to do because calibration, self-calibration screens and stuff, they're a thing. So if you do a defibrillator self-check and it says all tests passed, yes, you can take a photo, attach it. That is one of our goals, that we're going to have that. And again, just like here on the screen, you can take that and you can copy it over and then attach your photo. Yes, that is something that we're working on. Not currently set up, and that's because we're working with the CMMS systems and stuff. But good question. Yes, we are definitely working on it. And pacemaker tests. Okay, this is the last one I'm going to show you guys when it comes to setting up a test. People make this mistake. I made this mistake. I mean, all the time. Defib analyzers often have a separate port for testing pacing. I incorporated an image here to show them. If you're testing pacing, move your cables to these ports. And then I tell them exactly how I want it set up. And it's going to automatically measure the pulse rate and the amplitude down here. I've got my specs set up, so it's pass or fail. You'll get that result, and you will complete the test with this one. And it's very simple. Test load, 50 ohms, 10 millisecond square wave. That's pretty fair. Pulse width. There's a lot of options there. You don't really need to do that in order to test pacer. As long as you set the defib up to 100 BPM and a 10 milliamps, it will automatically give you a pass or fail as soon as it detects a pulse. So guys, that is a quick overview of a defib auto sequence. I'll show you a couple other things that we can add, some cool stuff. We can do a checklist. I can do a manual custom measurement So let's say I have a thermal cabinet, and let's say on my thermal cabinet, I want to add a temperature. Just for sake's sake, we're going to add a temperature measurement to a defibrillator here. So we're going to do a temperature check. Use thermocouple probe. And next one, let's test front, top, and lower rear of cabinet. Okay, so I've given them instructions on what I want, and now we have, let's add 2 different measurements. Okay, come on, there we go. Verify temperature. Okay, here is where I would incorporate step image, either of the thermocouple probe I want them to use, or where in the cabinet I want them to test. I think my description was pretty accurate, test front, top, and lower rear. And here we're going to do front top. We're looking for 126 degrees. 126, limit type, value. And let's say 5 degrees above and below 126 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and I did the top front. Let's do bottom left. Again, 126, of course. Value 5 and degrees Fahrenheit. And there it is. I just added an entire step, completely unnecessary step to my defibrillator PM. And I'm telling them that I want to incorporate temperature checks. Now, there's no way of doing an automated temperature check at this time, but I told them where I want them to test, and I told them what test equipment I want to use. I can include a photo of what test equipment they should be using or where I want them to test on the cabinet. And down here, I have my measurements. And as long as they type in the values that they're measuring, it'll give them a pass or fail, and you'll complete the sequence. Let's go ahead and delete that because I'll forget about that one. All right, and now let's go ahead and let's take a look at myBC Mobile and how does this all tie together. So you guys know that we have auto sequences, and you guys know that you can customize, you can copy somebody else's auto sequences and make them your own. Now, how does that work with the myBC Mobile app? Now, the myBC Mobile app is completely free. You guys can use it and you can compile reports and stuff without myBC Connect. But to be able to customize your own tests and whatnot, you utilize myBC Connect. So let's go ahead and let's pop it over and let's take a look, see. And here we have myBC Mobile, and this is currently set up. It's on my tablet, and you guys can see this is the home screen. And at the very top, it says, hello, Justin Barbour. And it says also that I'm currently connected to myBC Connect. Now, if I wasn't connected, the header up there would be red. So let's say I don't have Wi-Fi in this part of my hospital. Well, it's going to show red, and that means that my testing is going to be inhibited because it needs to pull those test results. That's something else that we're currently working on, where it's in prototype stage, where we have a offline testing and it will later sync up with the CMMS. So that's some cool functionality. It takes a lot of testing though. So it's also one of our objectives. Over here, we've got the screen, and I'm going to hit this little barcode up here. And now I'm in barcode scanning mode. So if you are out in the field, this is exactly how you would approach your test equipment or your biomed equipment. Let's see, no. So you can see I scanned it, and now it popped up that it's a defibrillator, and it's going to run a defibrillator demo test. You can see that all right there. I can also see who owns it and where it normally lives, which is floor 1 of obviously my garage. So what we're going to do is we're going to run the sequence, which is the little blue button down here at the bottom. And look at this. It says incomplete test detected. As I said earlier, it's like the Netflix of testing. You can either continue where you left off or you're going to start new. In this case, if it was another biomed that was testing this equipment, I know I haven't touched this one yet, of course you're going to start new. And
Justin,
yeah, go ahead.
we had a question. If I
Sure.
start over, will it retain the first start with the failure? I want to see the failure point, then see the complete inspection with no failure. And our CMMS, that would be failed test, repair on same work order, pass test.
Okay. So there's a couple different ways of taking that. If you are just a plus user, then you are going to be attaching a PDF report to your work order and then failing the test or whatnot. That's a manual operation. If you are a pro user and it interfaces with the CMMS, well, here's where we have some consideration, because do you want it just closing out a failed test, or do you want it to pause? And this is where we work with the customers on a one-on-one basis, because different customers, of course, treat this differently. Sometimes they want you to close out the work order as a fail. Sometimes they just want it to mark it as a fail and allow the technician to do follow-up, which might mean create a repair work order or something like that. So that is going to be on a per customer basis on what happens next. Very good question. If you go in here and I show you guys my test records, you can see that I do have a lot of failed conditions, these ones up here. So if I met a fail condition, then it's going to be marked as a fail, you know. And here on my incomplete, I just didn't complete the test. And you can see this is one of our reports. It's a result. So up here is a summary of all the tests that were done for that device. And then down here is a in-depth description of all the stuff that's going on with the test. And if you have a fail, right here is where it's going to be registered. So you have your tolerance, you have your set point, and what it read, and it will mark it as pass or fail. So this one here is an incomplete test because you can see we have some 0 readings in here. So this one here is definitely incomplete. And also on our reports up here at the top, you see myBC, or the BC Group logo. This will be your hospital or your company logo. This is actually just a placeholder logo. So this will be your logo at the top of this report. But if it's incomplete, it will be marked as incomplete in here. And if you're an administrator, you can go in at any time and you can see those incompletes. But when it comes to myBC Mobile, it will mark it as incomplete and will ask them, do you want to start new, or do you want to start where it left off? Obviously, if you're a biomed tech, you don't want to leave off and return to somebody else's work. You're always going to start to the beginning of a test if you're not the technician that did the previous test, of course. So the second screen you're going to see on myBC Mobile, this is the CMMS login screen. So if you have a pro account and it interfaces with your CMMS, this is where you verify what technician is going to be completing the work orders. If your name's not here, you're not the one completing the work order, okay? So we're just gonna pass it. We're gonna go into the blue. And this is a summary of the test, and it shows the test equipment that is currently Bluetooth to my tablet. And we can see right here, the calibration dates, and the firmware and everything. That's all part of the test record. It's going to be saved. And then down here is summary of the steps that this test is going to require. So we're just going to press the blue, which is down here behind me. There we go. Now you can see it. So down here is a blue start auto sequence button. And we're going to go ahead and go right into that walk-up checklist. And I'm just going to go ahead and pass it, pass it, pass it. We already covered all this. Now, once you've completed all the steps in a desired page, notice my icon down at the bottom turned blue. It says next now. If you don't do all the steps, this right here will not turn blue and you can't proceed. There is no way of pencil whipping, guys. You have to do it, or I mean, you could lie on your results, but you have to have some sort of data. Otherwise, you can't complete the test. And over here, it's asking for mains voltage. So let's say you are not a BC Group customer and you don't have myBC test equipment. Well, this is an excellent spot for you to, let's say you have a fluke or you have a day trend. You can type in your voltage, 120 volts. It gives me a pass or fail condition. And same thing with equipment current. Let's go ahead and turn my device on so I have current. And let's say 4.6. Now I do have a camera set up over there, but I apologize, guys. The camera is not working. So normally you would see the test equipment just automatically configuring and nabbing results, but I can't show that to you guys because my computer is not being good today. Okay, so here we go. And this is where they're given instructions on doing the ECG. You can view the step image. It shows them where to plug in. And it gives them instructions up here at the top of the test. And it's asking for 80 BPM, which I look over at my device. It's saying 80. And then I proceed. And on this step right here, it's saying the SpO2. So I take my handy dandy FSX and it gives me specific instructions on what to do. It says connect the SpO2, which you can see I have a disposable on there. Ensure the simulator is set to finger probe manufacturer. So this is where I'm going to set it to Massimo. And it says set simulator to 99%. Guys, you gotta love these touchscreens. I love touchscreen test equipment. Okay, and it says 2% saturation at 80 BPM. There we are. That easy. And now I look over at my screen and it will register an SpO2. I'm looking for 99%. So at this moment, I'm going to be typing in, oh, it's at 100. And notice that right over here, it shows a green pass condition right over here on the side. So that test is passed. And now it's asking for 70%. Again, very simple. And I have 1. And then it proceeds to the next part of the test. Now you can see how this will go very, very quickly for your biomeds. And as long as they are very good at attention to detail and following steps, this is going to speed things up considerably. Now, this is where I tell you guys to over document the process. So what I suggest is that you have a senior level biomed doing the test and you're sitting back taking photos of what they're doing as they do it. And that's how you're going to document how you want your other biomeds, let's say a biomed 1, to proceed and continue doing tests. Now over here, ECG waveform, again, it's telling me what buttons to set up. This is that cardio sync that we talked about before. And for this guy here, all right, well, we're not even gonna worry about that. So this right here is where we would put it into, the defib's gotta be in manual mode, and then we go ahead and set it up for cardio sync. It's gonna automatically set up your ECG waveform. And from that point, you just have to press the sync button. And then when it marks the pulse, which the instructions tell you right here, then you're going to charge the defib and then press and hold the discharge, and it will automatically capture. And this will automatically populate. It gives me pass conditions, and then it proceeds to the next part automatically. So what we're doing is we're going to complete all the steps on a page, and then when the icon turns blue, you can proceed to the next. If it doesn't go blue, there's something left to do. All right. Pulse energy. This is where I would charge the defibrillator, discharge it. It will automatically capture any sort of input whatsoever, and it's going to put it right here. So on this particular one, let's say 335. And then I created one more step, which I have to go in and write the description a little bit better. And this one here, I put for 300 joules. And now we go into pacer. So we just follow the instructions. We move the pacing cables because we were on the defibrillator test ports. Now I tell them very specifically to connect the defib energy cables to the pacer ports. So we move the cables, and then it says to set the defib to pacer. We set the rate, and then we set the current, and it will automatically capture that. So this one here, I'm just going to type something in because I'm actually going to run out of time. And notice how it gave me a fail condition down here. So it gave me a red fail condition. So this is going to be a failed test. And at this point, it's going to be up to the customer what they want to do. Some people just want to close the work orders. Other people want to halt the process when it reaches fail. We talked about that earlier. So it's going to finish it out, and now we can submit it because, again, I'm a pro user, so I'm interfacing with the CMMS system. So when I click submit, it's going to send that data over to the CMMS, and it's going to affect my work order. I'm going to go ahead and press submit. It's going to do its thing. And then we are going to go over to myBC Connect, and we'll see the test results for that guy. Hop on over, and we can search based on a variety of criteria. In this case, I have the asset number, but we can also search based on model, an owner. We can search by a variety of different things. And this right here, 17-5224, that's it. And this is going to be an old test, guys. Apologize for that. 17-5224. And here we can pull up the PDF of it. And in this particular one, you can see I've got a bunch of stuff going on, and I have a failed condition on this one. Actually, unexpected result. So anyway, guys, that is the myBC mobile and how it interfaces. Now, I can do some other cool stuff. On myBC mobile, I can go in, and if I touch the records button, I can pull up remote records on any asset. So in this case, I walk up to any random device, I scan the barcode, and then we can see that entire asset's history. Now in this case, you can see all the passes and all the incompletes. I've done a lot of incompletes on this asset, and that just is what it is because this is my demo asset ID. But if you're getting spot checked, if you're currently under a JACO, Joint Commission investigation, and they say, show me the device history on this particular device, all you gotta do is go over with your tablet, scan the barcode, and you can automatically pull up those results for them live. You can create a report live right here. You can see that I can generate PDFs or I can view the results. It's up to you what you wanna do. You can email it to the investigator or you can just show it to them. Most of the time, they'll just wanna view it, prove that you have an asset history, press on to the next thing. Very simple, very easy. That's a new feature that we just added. Very happy about that. And we can also do manual testing. So let's say you don't have myBC Connect. You can come in here and you can click on test, and you can see I have an SA2600, that is my electrical safety meter. And I also have my DA2006, that is my defibrillator analyzer. And we can automatically collect that data right here on my tablet. And it's a very cool functionality because you can create reports from your tablet. It's just you won't have the luxury of built-out tests that explain step-by-step on what you need to do. Now, I said earlier that you don't need BC test equipment. If you have Fluke, if you have anybody else, you can do the same thing because you just manually type in your results into the field. Now, what I do recommend is you incorporate photos showing what menu you have to go into and write into the description. If using the Fluke analyzer, go into this menu, press ECG, normal sinus rhythm, and just write it out step by step. Again, documenting is going to be key to having a very successful future with these products. Now, your Biomeds, this prevents them from pencil whipping, but at the same time, they're going to keep focused on exactly what they have to do next, and you'll proceed step by step. Yes, automation does speed things up quite a bit, but mainly it's keeping the technicians focused on what's the next step. So they're going, what's the next step? What's the next step? You're showing them what jigs to use, what test equipment configuration is automatically being set up by the software. They can just focus on what they got to do next. So guys, I'll be taking some questions and whatnot. I know I'm running out of time. Guys, we have a series of videos on all this stuff in detail. And we did that because we knew there's no way we're going to be able to explain everything in 45 minutes to an hour. So look for that. I'll also be doing a series of videos on the Better Biomed channel, but BC Group has an entire library of videos on every one of their products over on their own YouTube channel, where you can go in and let's say you need some clarification on any one of these devices that we mentioned today or on their software. You can go in and you can, at your leisure, view those videos and get updates on products. So guys, I'll be taking questions and whatnot. If you guys have any questions, now's the time. Let's do it.
One question that came in is, who owns the records that are being recorded?
You will always own the records. I mean, that's how would I explain that? Because if you're a pro user, the records are going to be part of your work order. But if you're a plus user, the records are going to be on your account, and it's going to be no different than, let's say, Google Drive. If you save a file to Google Drive, then that file is technically yours. Yes, Google holds it for you, but it's yours. It's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to make sure that it's accurate, but we're just holding it for you. So yes, we have access to it, but it's your record, and you can pull it up at any time that you want. You can send it to people. You can also delete it. So it's up to you. If you want to delete your records, that's fine. You like a little bit of housekeeping, that's fine. I know people that do that. As long as you make sure that you have backups of it, it's up to you.
One question we had is, how many users are we allowed to create? Is it one user per license?
All right, that's a good one. So it's actually a common theory that a license goes to an individual user. And some people have already expressed their concerns because what if this person gets a license and they leave our company, etc. Our licenses work based on an access for one person to log in at one time. And that way there, if it's an administrator, if it's a Biomed one, it doesn't matter. It can also be one of your customers. There's different levels of users that you can assign. And some cool things about that is we can assign people's access to be just a viewer, they can be a contributor, or they can be an administrator. So if somebody's going to be a viewer, it can be a customer. Let's say somebody like a laboratory. Laboratories are very fussy about their records. And this way here, you can give them access to be a viewer, and they can see their records and they can pull them at any time because they get inspected quite frequently and very unexpectedly. It might give them a little bit of comfort. If you are going to be a contributor is like a regular biomed. They don't have access to changing auto sequences or assets. They can't create users, but what they can do is they can go in and they can see results. They can print results. They can make those reports for customers, etc. And of course, the administrators are going to be the guys that can make it all happen.
We had some more questions come in. Is there a list of CMS systems that you're currently integrated with? And if your hospital changes CMMS, can you still access them?
Interesting. The answer is yes. You can still access your reports because those test records are still going to be on our server. So even if they change the CMMS, but we're going to have to reintegrate our system with the CMMS and probably resync the data. That's something, it's an interesting question because it's a very complex one. You know, CMMSs, they all interface with data differently. So it's going to have to be on a one-by-one case basis, but it's something that you have redundant backups of your data regardless. So, and the same thing happens with assets. So if you are buying up another hospital or you're adding another clinic or something to your account, we can just create another facility and we can add or delete your assets based on that facility. So if one of your clinics or something, God forbid, closed, we can go in and we can remove those assets based on a facility, not a problem.
All right. I'm going to wrap things up now because we are running out of time, but we will share any questions we didn't get to so that you can reach out via email to answer those questions.
Fantastic.
Thank you to Thank you, everyone, and thank you to today's sponsor, BC Group International. BC Group International is a biomedical test equipment manufacturer and distributor for over 75 brands of products. BC Group's flagship brand is BC Biomedical. BC Group sells direct and through distributors both domestically and internationally. BC Group provides equipment to medical device manufacturers, independent service companies, and hospital biomedical and clinical engineering departments. For more information, please visit bcgroupstore.com. The winner of today's multi-tool is Preston Huftel in Nebraska. The correct answer is Washington. Now, a quick reminder that you can obtain your CE certificate by completing the post-webinar survey. The survey will be emailed in 1 hour. You must complete the survey to receive your 1 CE credit from the ACI, and you will be able to download the certificate directly from your computer once the survey is submitted. If you have any questions, you can reach us through email at webinar@mdpublishing.com. Thank you again for everyone for your attention, and thank you, Justin and BC Group. Now have a great day, and we will see you on the next webinar.